Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today we're going to go back in a time machine to work on a Langley lure cast fishing reel from the 1950s. And then it's interesting, 70 years later or 75 years later, designs like this, an aluminum spool that's got the holes drilled in it to lighten it, is still being used on modern production bait casting reels. Langley, they were an aluminum fabricator, played a big part in the World War II airplane marketplace. They were making airplane fuselages and things, and after the war, the government encouraged them to start making products for the civilian market, and fishing reels was one of them. They did that in the 1950s until they merged with Zebco, and their brand was eventually just incorporated under the Zebco name, and Langley by itself was eliminated as a brand name. Well, today we're going to take this apart. We'll see how it was made. We'll do our best to clean it up, grease it up, and we'll see if we can't keep it running. It's running nice now. This is what's called a knuckle buster reel because there is no anti-reverse to it. When you cast, the line simply lets out and the reel turns backwards. When you go to retrieve, it pulls forward. And this is, it's a smooth operating reel today. It's got a level wind feature to it, so you don't have to worry about thumbing the line guide to spread the line back and forth. So let's get started. We're going to take off the exterior pieces and parts, and as I do, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. My channel, we go into all kinds of things, but it's predominantly about reel service and repair and teaching you how to do it yourself. But interspersed with that is a lot of things like the company history of the fishing reels and the different types of fishing reels and their usage, what's going on in the fishing industry, and just other information that I hope you find interesting along the way. Sometimes we'll preview the projects that are coming up. Sometimes we'll even look at some reels that may have been acquired at a flea market or the like. Well, I'm taking my screws off the side plate here so that we can get access to the reel, and I want to encourage you when you do that to look at the screw lengths. This one was longer than the other two, and I want to encourage you to have a strategy for what you're going to do with the parts once you remove them. One of the things we're going to do, I'm going to move this over to the side here so that we get access to the pawl. Now we can remove the side plate, see what's going on there. We have a drive that's held in place by a bridge. That bridge is held in with these two screws. We'll remove that so that we can do the cleaning underneath. We have a spool that has the spool gear on there. This is an aluminum spool. As I mentioned, the weight's off of there, but the other purpose of those drilled holes was to allow water to escape from braided line. Braided line was the line of the time. Monofilament wasn't yet popular. And braided line held the water, and eventually, if you didn't take care of that, line drying and so on, ultimately it would rot the line and cause the line to weaken and break. Well, we're going to remove the cap, and interestingly enough, as I mentioned, Langley was an aluminum manufacturer. Most of this reel is made from aluminum pieces and parts. I'm going to use that pliers to remove the pawl, and the pawl is the wing. It's got 2 points on it, and its purpose is to ride in the track so that the line gathers there, and it's an even spooling. Well, these pawls get clogged with dirt and debris. You can see all of it that's coming up here, and when it gets too much of it on there, it just stops. So make sure you clean it up. And we're going to leave that off to the side for a moment because I want to make sure that I clean the worm gear as well. To do that, this should simply pull out now that we've removed that. The line guide, we can leave the line guide in there. I'm going to spray a little bit of penetrating oil in there. I'm going to run a cotton swab through there to make sure that the inner shield is cleaned. Most of the time on a reel like this, it's going to be used in fresh water. And fresh water, if you lay your reel down on the bank or wherever, Sometimes the dirt and debris in there will gather, and what better place for it to gather than someplace like here. Okay, just want to squirt a little bit of penetrating oil into the back of the case. Grab the other side of that cotton swab and work this in. And this is a good place to tell you to take pictures if you have any questions about where things belong, how they may have been mounted in there, things like that. That will help you in determining how to reset this. We could bring our drive back in. You want to make sure that you have the square-shouldered portion of that facing you. That's because that square portion is going to go here. It's going to be driven off that main gear. If you tried to put the other side in on it, it won't drive. So the rounded side goes in the non-gear side plate. And to make that continue to operate nice and smooth, a little bit of grease onto the stud that goes into that side case bushing. Just like that. With that in, we can take the line guide pawl, which we removed, put that back in. Probably need that same pliers. Set that in. And we can place the cap on. And I'm going to screw that down before we go very much further. When I work on reels, I like to work on sub-assemblies. That way I don't have all the pieces and parts of the reel all over the place. Because if you do, well, it just makes it difficult to manage it. Take a picture of this before you go. You have a main gear, you have the gear that's going to drive the spool. You have a gear down here which is going to be driven or driving the worm gear. As I mentioned, it's held on by 2 screws. So get an appropriate screwdriver. That is one that matches the slots in the screws themselves. And let's take this off for cleaning. Still not quite out on that screw. Once that screw is out, you can see that we have a bunch of old grease here. And one thing that we know about old grease is it slows the performance of the reel. So the reel, if this is for casting lures, well, that main gear is going to be rubbing against that old grease, and that will slow down. Yeah, this is very thick old grease, so you want to take care to get that off of there. I'm using a paper towel. The best approach to cleaning old greases and debris is to work with the softest or least abrasive tools that you have, which is why you'll see me with a cotton swab and paper towels most of the time. And then if you need to get aggressive, you can move up to kitchen scrubby pads, and maybe you're going to need something else along the line, maybe some fine steel wool or something. But make sure that as you do this, that you work from least abrasive first. This should come off. Again, we have a double gear here and we have a single gear here. So let's get the old dirt off the bridge, because, well, same thing on the bridge as what we were talking about on the back side plate there. That grease will slow the performance of the reel. These were very well machined at the time. You can imagine somebody who's making pieces and parts for aircrafts. They should be able to do this kind of stuff very well, and they did. There was a well-made reel and a great reputation for these reels. Unfortunately, it was just I don't want to say passing thought. It wasn't a passing thought when your business is designed around making pieces and parts for warplanes, and war is over. You got to find something to do. And well, that kept Langley going for a while. And yes, it is the same Langley that Langley Air Force Base is named after out in California. Okay, just going to use the brush to clean up the dirt in the tracks of the gears. Same thing here, we got a little debris on the back side of this, so let's get that off of there. While I'm doing this, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel, just leave them in the comment section. I will try to answer those for you. Generally, I answer those questions next morning, so just be patient if you're asking a question in the evening. This is not a 24/7 helpline. Okay, the grease is back on the drive gear for your worm. Light greasing onto the shaft for your main gear. A little bit of grease onto the drive for the spool. And the drive for the worm gear. This one will drive the spool up here, the main. And that's it. That's the grease for your bridge. Your bridge goes back on. A little bit of grease into where your spool will lodge. That's an adjuster cap. So you can add or reduce tension depending on how your line is performing. You always want to match the tension on your reel to the weight of the lure that you're using, or sinker. That will optimize casting, and it will minimize your bird's nesting. And that holds us true today for this reel, as it does for modern baitcaster reels. Of course, this was the predecessor of the modern bait casting reel. But for a 70-year-old reel, 70 plus, it's pretty darn good. Okay, those are the two that hold the frame on. And before I go about reassembling, I'm going to take a kitchen scrubby, a little bit of rod and reel cleaner. I'm going to put that on and clean up some of the film that's on the case. It's got a beautiful plated finish in red. It even kind of came with designer colors, right? Okay, wipe that down. Pen rod and reel cleaner is a cleaner and a sort of a polish. It's a really nice product. If you're looking for something that has minimum effort but maximum effect, try that. Okay, so we need to put that on. We have our handle goes on. We got a little bit scarred up. That goes in the line of if fishing reels could talk, what would they say about who owned them and how they were used, and maybe even where that handle got a little bit of nicked up. When you put your handle caps back on the nuts, make sure that you do it by hand. You don't want to kind of start wrenching these things to find out that they're cross-stripped. The spool itself is an aluminum spool. We do have a little bit of dirt on the back end, so same thing, rinse and repeat kind of thing. Sometimes people like to buff this up. It's an aluminum. You can do that if you like. I kind of like to leave the stories the way they are. Kind of tells you a little bit about the reel usage of that. I am a mechanic, if you will. I make sure that the reels work properly. I don't necessarily like to restore reels. I like the patinas and the use patterns to talk about how the reel was used or abused, and just make sure that it's mechanically correct. A little bit of grease onto both sides of the spool, grease onto the spool gear. We've cleaned up the insides of these. Let's reseat the spool. Now we can grab the side case. Langley lure cast is up top. This is the up top part. You need to make sure that you match that to the little gear on the bottom here. Those are kind of your reference points in terms of how to install. I think I've got these lined up. Next thing you want to do is just turn your handle, make sure that that worm gear meshes in. And then we can take the 3 case screws that hold this side, put those back in, and we'll be ready to give it a test. So these are legacy reels. No reason why you couldn't take them fishing today. There's actually some clubs out there that, well, they like to do that. They like to do antique tackle. They include their rods, their reels, and lures of the time. And they do contests and challenges to see who can catch what fish with reels back in the day. And I think that's kind of fun. I haven't participated in any of those. I have a few of these. I always thought of doing it, but I haven't found a club around here either that does that. Okay, one more screw goes in. It's the longer screw. This one looks like it was a replacement screw at one point, but again, we're going to just kind of leave it as it is, let it speak for the way that the reel was maintained. All right, got that. All right, we didn't clean this side up. There's still plenty of cleaner on this scrubby pad here, so I'll just use that. And what I do is I take a full-size kitchen scrubby, and it's not even the Scotch Brights or any of those. It's a dollar store one, and the reason for that is the Scotch Brights seem to be a little bit too aggressive, but the dollar store ones, maybe they don't do pots and pans better, but they're less abrasive when it comes to putting a nice cleaning and shine on this. All right, so this is an adjuster. We put the grease on from the inside. You could remove that cap and grease. Same thing here. This is an adjuster on this side. You use the two of them to level the sides of the spool so that they're equidistant on both sides. If you hear scraping on the spool, probably means that it's too far in. Just loosen one, tighten the other, and you should get it going. Last thing to do then would be to put a little bit of oil onto the posts for your handles. Again, that's machined aluminum knobs as well. Let's give it a test. Oh my gosh, what a beautiful little reel. Turns free and easy. Again, for casting, but if you want to throw a little bit more, you might just back that off a little bit, back some of the tension off the spool. Oh yeah, that's going to make it spin even further or faster. Spool out when you're casting. It's going to bring the line out this way. Now this is a level line reel where the line guide does turn during casting, so that does slow distance a little bit. But it'll go out that way, and when it's time to retrieve, you turn it around the other way. There you go. What a beautiful little reel. This is the Langley lure cast from the 1950s. This is how you take it apart, service it, and learn a little bit about the history. Well, again, I want to encourage you to subscribe if you like these types of videos. And if you do subscribe, please use that notification button. Questions, just leave them in the comment section. Before I leave, I want to thank our first responders, our police, fire, safety, rescue, everybody involved in keeping us out of harm's way. I truly appreciate your career choice and what it is you do on a day-to-day basis. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, wishing everybody fun fishing and a great day.